Picture a perfectly normal Tuesday morning. You wake up at your usual time, you brew your favorite coffee, you read the morning paper, and you feel entirely in control of your life, your home, and your future. Now picture Friday of that exact same week. You are lying on a sterile hospital bed, your children are standing in the hallway whispering in hushed, panicked tones with a hospital social worker, and glossy brochures for long-term assisted living facilities are already sitting on your bedside table. Your independence has vanished in a matter of 72 hours. To the outside world, to your family, and even to your doctors, this catastrophic loss of autonomy appears entirely sudden. But as a medical professional, I must tell you a terrifying truth. Almost nothing in the human aging body fails suddenly. I am Dr. Andrew Morgan. For over 30 years, I have specialized in geriatric medicine, neurobiology, and the science of human longevity. I have sat in countless hospital rooms with seniors who were living perfectly independent lives on Monday and were entirely reliant on institutional care by the weekend. Their families always say the exact same thing to me. It happened so fast. One day she was fine, and the next day she just fell apart. But the decline was not sudden. What these families are actually witnessing is a biological phenomenon known in geriatric medicine as the decompensation cliff. For months, or even years, your body has been silently accumulating massive physiological debt. Your internal systems have been running on absolute fumes, hiding critical weaknesses and compensating for failing mechanisms. You felt fine because your body was masterfully masking the damage. But eventually, a seemingly insignificant stressor acts as the final grain of sand that collapses the entire scale. You step off the cliff, and the illusion of sudden decline begins. Today, we are going to expose the hidden medical traps that push independent seniors off the decompensation cliff, and I am going to give you the exact blueprints to rebuild your biological safety net before it is too late. Before we uncover the specific biological traps that trigger this collapse, I want you to drop your age in the comments below and tell me, what is your greatest fear when you think about the prospect of losing your physical independence? I read every single comment on this channel. Your stories are the lifeblood of this community, and they shape the exact medical research I bring to you. Take a moment, leave your comment, and let's face this reality together. The most frequent and arguably the most devastating trigger for this sudden collapse of independence is a biological deception that frequently fools even experienced emergency room physicians. It is the phenomenon of the asymptomatic infection, most commonly manifesting as a silent urinary tract infection, or UTI. To understand why this is so catastrophic, you must understand how the aging immune system fundamentally changes. When a 30-year-old contracts a severe bacterial infection, their robust immune system immediately triggers a massive inflammatory response. They develop a high, sweating fever, severe localized pain, and a rapidly elevated white blood cell count. The body sounds a blaring alarm, forcing them to seek immediate medical attention. However, after the age of 70, the immune system undergoes a process called immunosenescence. The alarm system becomes muffled, blunted, and tragically quiet. An older adult can develop a raging, severe bacterial infection in their urinary tract and experience absolutely no burning, no localized pain, and zero fever. Because there are no warning signs, the bacteria multiply silently for weeks, eventually crossing the mucosal barrier and entering the bloodstream. Once in the blood, the systemic inflammation breaches the blood-brain barrier. The brain tissue itself becomes inflamed, leading to a terrifying, sudden-onset neurological condition called acute hyperactive delirium. To a family member or an untrained observer, this sudden delirium looks exactly like the rapid onset of end-stage Alzheimer's disease. The senior becomes hallucinating, violently agitated, entirely confused, and unable to care for themselves. I witnessed this nightmare with my patient, Eleanor. Eleanor was 76 years old and fiercely independent. On a Sunday, she was happily pruning her rose bushes. By Wednesday evening, her daughter found her wandering the street in her nightgown, terrified, claiming strangers were in her house. In the emergency room, the psychiatric resident actually recommended transferring her to a locked memory care unit, Assuming she had suffered a massive dementia break, I halted the transfer and ordered a comprehensive urinalysis. Eleanor did not have dementia. She had a massive, silent bacterial infection that had poisoned her brain chemistry. After 72 hours of intravenous antibiotics, Eleanor was sitting up in bed, perfectly lucid, asking for her crossword puzzle. If her daughter had accepted the initial dementia diagnosis, Eleanor would have spent the rest of her life in an institution. The defense against this silent threat requires proactive biological flushing. You cannot wait for symptoms because the symptoms will not arrive until your brain is already compromised. The synergy prescription is to integrate a daily dose of D-mannose powder into your morning routine. D-mannose is a naturally occurring simple sugar that does not interfere with blood glucose levels. Instead, it travels directly to your urinary tract, where it acts like a molecular magnet. The microscopic hooks on the E. coli bacteria, the primary cause of these silent infections, bind to the D-mannose instead of the lining of your bladder. You simply flush the bacteria out of your system every single time you use the restroom. Pair this targeted supplement with at least 16 ounces of structured water consumed before 10 in the morning to guarantee your system is mechanically cleared of pathogens every single day. As we continue examining the decompensation cliff, we must confront a second, deeply hidden biological trap that permanently strips millions of seniors of their autonomy every single winter. I call it the viral muscle atrophy cascade, though researchers know it as acute sarcopenic crisis. Most people believe that a bad case of the seasonal flu or a severe respiratory virus is dangerous strictly because of the damage it does to the lungs. While the pulmonary threat is real, the true reason older adults lose their independence after a virus has nothing to do with their breathing. It has everything to do with their muscle tissue. When you contract a severe virus after the age of 65, your immune system requires an enormous amount of metabolic energy to fight the pathogen. To harvest this energy, the body enters a hypercatabolic state. Because you are likely bedridden and have lost your appetite, your body is deprived of external protein. Therefore, it begins to aggressively cannibalize its own skeletal muscle to harvest the amino acids necessary to produce immune cells. Simultaneously, the absolute lack of physical movement from staying in bed for 5 to 7 days triggers rapid muscular disuse atrophy. In a young body, a week of bed rest results in a minor loss of strength that is easily regained, but the aging body suffers from anabolic resistance. A senior can lose up to 15% of their functional leg strength and fast-twitch muscle fibers in a single week of viral bed rest. Fast-twitch fibers are the explosive muscles in your thighs and glutes that allow you to stand up from a toilet, climb a stair, or catch yourself when you trip. When the virus finally clears and the senior attempts to resume their normal life, they suddenly discover their legs cannot support their own body weight. They attempt to stand up from their favorite chair, and they simply cannot. They fall, they fracture a hip, and the transition to a nursing facility becomes permanent. They survived the virus, but the virus destroyed their mechanical independence. I saw this tragic cascade in my patient, William, who was 79 years old. William caught a moderate strain of the flu in late November. He did the exact right thing according to conventional wisdom. He stayed in bed, he rested, and he drank tea for 6 days. When his fever broke, he tried to walk to his mailbox. Halfway down his driveway, his quadriceps simply gave out. He collapsed, fracturing his pelvis. In the hospital, he wept, telling me his body had betrayed him overnight. It was not an overnight betrayal. It was a 6-day hypercatabolic destruction of his structural integrity. To survive a viral illness without losing your independence, you must completely abandon the idea that total bed rest is healing. Total bed rest is toxic to the aging muscular system. The synergy prescription for viral recovery is what I call active protein defense. Even if you have a fever, even if you are exhausted, you must perform seated resistance movements. Keep a light resistance band next to your bed. 3 times a day, wrap it around your feet and perform seated leg presses for just 5 minutes. This tiny mechanical stimulus forces your muscles to remain neurologically engaged. Pair this micro-movement with the consumption of a highly bioavailable whey protein isolate containing at least 3 grams of leucine, mixed into water twice a day. Leucine is the specific amino acid that forcefully triggers the mTOR pathway, essentially commanding your muscles to stop breaking themselves down. You must feed the immune system the amino acids it needs so it does not eat your independence to survive. Equally devastating to a senior's autonomy is the silent, creeping danger of metabolic drug accumulation. This is the phenomenon where medications that have kept you safe for a decade suddenly become the exact mechanism of your downfall. As you age, your liver mass shrinks, and the blood flow to your liver decreases by up to 40%. The cytochrome P450 enzymes, the chemical workers in your liver responsible for breaking down prescription medications, become significantly less efficient. Simultaneously, your kidney filtration rate naturally slows down. When you combine this slowing metabolic clearance with minor, everyday changes, such as losing 3 pounds of body weight or experiencing a day of mild dehydration, the concentration of medication in your bloodstream skyrockets. You might be taking the exact same dose of a beta blocker or a blood pressure medication that your doctor prescribed 10 years ago, but because your body is no longer clearing the drug efficiently, that safe dose silently transforms into a toxic overdose. You experience a sudden catastrophic drop in blood pressure when you stand up, a condition called orthostatic hypotension. The room spins, your brain is starved of oxygen, and you crash to the floor. The resulting traumatic brain injury or shattered femur is what sends you to a long-term care facility, but the root cause was a medication that outlived its safety profile. Margaret, an 82-year-old retired schoolteacher, experienced this exact trap. She had been taking the same dose of a popular blood pressure medication since she was 70. Over the summer, she lost just 4 pounds and was drinking slightly less water. One morning, she stood up from her kitchen table. The medication caused her blood pressure to bottom out, and she fainted, suffering a severe concussion. We did not need to put her in a care facility. We needed to drastically reduce her medication burden. The synergy tip to prevent this is to demand a comprehensive deprescribing audit from your primary care physician every single year. You must explicitly ask the question, which of these medications is my aging liver no longer processing efficiently, and what can we reduce? Pair this medical audit with daily at-home blood pressure monitoring using a reliable cuff. Log your numbers every morning and every evening. You must become the active, vigilant manager of your own biochemistry, because a dose that cured you at 70 can easily hospitalize you at 80. Let us examine another profoundly dangerous physiological shift that pushes seniors off the decompensation cliff: the collapse of the body's hydration blood volume axis. We frequently talk about drinking water as a matter of general wellness, but in geriatric neurology, optimal hydration is a matter of immediate life and death. As we age, our total body water percentage drops significantly. A younger adult's body is roughly 60% water, but a senior's body can drop to as low as 45%. Because your reserve tank is so incredibly small, your margin for error practically ceases to exist. Furthermore, the aging kidney loses its ability to concentrate urine effectively. This means that even if you are not drinking enough water, your kidneys will continue to excrete large volumes of fluid, rapidly draining your already depleted reserves. When this happens, your total blood volume drops. To keep blood flowing to your vital organs, your cardiovascular system must clamp down, narrowing your blood vessels and forcing your heart to beat faster. This chronic, silent hypovolemic state creates an incredibly fragile environment. If you stand up too quickly, or if you step into a hot shower that causes your blood vessels to dilate, your depleted blood volume simply cannot defy gravity. The blood pools in your legs, your brain is instantly starved of oxygen, and you suffer a terrifying syncope, a sudden fainting episode that almost always results in a catastrophic fall. I treated a gentleman named Thomas, who was 74 years old. He was spending a beautiful spring afternoon tending to his garden. The temperature was a mild 72 degrees, and he felt perfectly fine. But Thomas had not had a glass of water since his morning coffee. When he stood up after weeding a flower bed for 20 minutes, his depleted blood volume failed him. He passed out instantly, falling backward and fracturing his cervical spine. His transition from a vibrant, independent gardener to a bedbound patient requiring 24-hour care took exactly 3 seconds. The tragedy is that this loss of independence was entirely preventable with a single behavioral shift. You cannot rely on the sensation of thirst to protect you. The aging brain simply stops sending the thirst signal until you are already in a state of medical emergency. You must treat hydration with the exact same rigid discipline as you treat your vital prescription medications. The synergy prescription for this is the practice of cellular front-loading. Your body loses nearly a liter of water overnight through respiration. The moment your feet touch the floor in the morning, before you make coffee, before you read the paper, you must consume 16 to 20 ounces of water. But plain water is not enough to rebuild your blood volume effectively. You must structure the water by adding a high-quality, sugar-free electrolyte powder containing sodium, potassium, and magnesium. These specific electrolytes act as cellular gatekeepers, pulling the fluid directly into your tissues and expanding your blood volume instantly, providing a dense, protective cushion against orthostatic hypotension for the rest of the entire day. Finally, we must confront the most pervasive, psychologically complex danger that forces independent seniors into institutional care: the trap of toxic pride and the refusal to outsource physical risk. We live in a society that conflates independence with total self-reliance. Millions of seniors stubbornly believe that if they admit they need help carrying a heavy laundry basket down a flight of stairs, or if they hire someone to clean their gutters, they are admitting defeat. They hide their minor physical struggles from their adult children because they are utterly terrified that showing a single sign of vulnerability will result in their family forcing them into a nursing home. This toxic stoicism is the exact mechanism that guarantees the loss of independence. Biological resilience requires a social infrastructure. When you stubbornly insist on performing high-risk physical tasks, like climbing on a step stool to change a light bulb when your balance is compromised, you are not proving your strength. You are playing a lethal game of probability. You are risking 100% of your future autonomy just to change a piece of glass. True, lasting independence is not defined by doing every single physical task yourself until your body breaks under the strain. True independence is acting as the intelligent, calculating CEO of your own life. A successful CEO does not mop the floors of the building. They delegate tasks to ensure the survival and prosperity of the entire company. You must ruthlessly delegate the physical tasks that carry a high risk of falling or injury, so you can conserve your precious biological energy and structural integrity for the things that actually matter: walking in the park, playing with your grandchildren, and traveling. The ultimate synergy tip to protect your autonomy is to formally build and utilize a risk delegation network. This means actively paying a neighborhood teenager to shovel your snow, utilizing a laundry delivery service if your washing machine is in a dangerous basement, and purchasing pre-chopped vegetables if arthritis makes knife work dangerous. You must view these small financial costs not as a luxury, but as the cheapest, most effective health insurance policy you will ever buy. Every time you outsource a dangerous physical task, you are actively purchasing another month, another year, or another decade of living in your own home. The decompensation cliff is steep, and it is entirely unforgiving. But it is not an inevitability. It is simply the result of allowing silent biological debts to accumulate in the shadows. By understanding the aging immune system, defending your muscle mass during illness, aggressively auditing your medications, treating hydration as medicine, and intelligently outsourcing physical risk, you build an impenetrable fortress around your autonomy. Your body wants to thrive. It wants to keep you upright, moving, and fully engaged in the beauty of life. You just have to give it the intelligent support it desperately needs. If this deep dive into the medical realities of aging independently brought you value today, I strongly encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Share this video with a friend or a family member who needs to hear this unvarnished truth. We publish rigorous, evidence-based medical content every single week designed specifically for adults who absolutely refuse to accept the standard narrative of decline. Protect your biology, defend your independence, and make the intelligent choices today that your future self will thank you for. Thank you for your time, take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video.